Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about Iron Flame. I've read it all 600 pages even though it's massive. Woo! Go me! I was kind of mean about this book in my TBR video. I kind of said it was last and also least that I was looking forward to reading. And then I proceeded to read it before any of the other books in my TBR. So I am in fact full of shit on this one. I was also a little bit pessimistic. I feel like people have been roasting this book, saying it was just nowhere near as good as Fourth Wing. People that loved Fourth Wing were kind of disappointed by it. But actually, I was kind of into it. I had fun. I read it while I was in Croatia. It's the same kind of time of year, October, November, that I read Fourth Wing last year. So I was just kind of feeling that autumn vibe, kind of getting in the mood. I wanted something easy to read, something big that I could take on holiday with me. And you know, Croatia, Dubrovnik, it's where they filmed Game of Thrones, it's where we had dragons. I've been watching Game of Thrones recently, and I thought a dragon book is probably perfect to take on holiday to Croatia. And I'm so glad that I did. I think if I read this book within the realms of my normal life, it would have taken me 4 or 6 weeks to get through just because it's so big. I think that probably would have made it harder for me to get into as well. But because I had a lot of time, a lot of pool days and beach days to just sit and commit to reading 100 or so pages at a time, it really allowed me to get into the flow and kind of go into it with good faith. You know, I seemed a little bit poor faith when I did my TBR video, but by the time I actually picked this up, I was in the mood for it. I was feeling it. I was excited to find out what happened next. So I think I went into it with a good frame of mind. But before I get into talking about Iron Flame, I thought I'd just start by talking about Fourth Wing because I haven't done that on this channel yet. I filmed a little review on TikTok on Fourth Wing back when I initially finished the book. And in that video I kind of said it was 3 stars, it was mid. I then went on after Fourth Wing to read Throne of Glass and Akatar, and I thought they were kind of 2-3 stars, kind of mid as well. But actually upon reflection, I actually do really enjoy Fourth Wing, and I think I enjoyed it way more than Akatar. I think the first book is so compelling because you've got this war college and you've got all of these challenges one after the other, and they're kind of interesting. You're interested to see if Violet is going to get through it. You know she probably will, so it's not got a lot of peril, but you're just keen to see what's going to happen next. Which dragon is she going to bond? It's a little bit predictable because they introduced the little gold one and they talk about this big black legendary dragon, and you're just like, she's definitely going to bond one of them, and then she bonds both because she's just so special, and you're like, oh, what a surprise. But also that's cool, I quite like it. Both the dragons are really cool. Tairn is big and kind of grumpy, and he's just stuck with these 20-year-olds, Xaden and Violet. And we've got Andarna, and she's really cute and really special, and there's a lot of mystery around her and what she is and what she's going to become. We've also got the concept of signet powers, so we wait a long time to see what power Violet's going to have manifested, and then she becomes a lightning wielder, and that's cool. And you just kind of go through this college, you just find out the answer to these questions and get to know some of the side characters. You get to enjoy the romance of enemies to lovers between Xaden and Violet. I like that Xaden kind of lets Violet be who she is. He kind of supports her in becoming a dragon rider, whereas Dane was always kind of holding her back just because he was scared. But Xaden kind of gives her the room to become a badass. We like a supportive man in that regard, I suppose. His personality for me kind of leaves a bit to be desired. He's kind of surly and he's kind of dark and he's got these secrets. And there's not much to him other than that. I think there's this protective element he has and this self-sacrificial element he has with the other relic children of the rebellion. I think his bond with Scale, his dragon, is very cool. And this forced proximity bond between Tairn and Scale, bringing Violet and Xaden together, is a cool plot device. I think a lot of their relationship is focused on their physical attraction. There is a little bit of bonding in there and mutual admiration, but it feels very surface level. He's always described as extremely hot and physically perfect, which doesn't really do much to endear me to him. I like my love interests to have a bit more going on than just physical attraction. I just like them to be a little bit more complex. So I'm not swooning over Xaden. I think he's fine. I prefer him to, like, say, Tamlin or Rhys in Akatar. But he's just okay to me. Lots of people find Violet annoying. I think she's fine. I like that she is strong to kind of live with this disability. I like that there's adaptations. I know Rebecca Yarros has Ehlers-Danlos as well, and so do her children. So I think it's really cool that she can put that experience into the book and make someone with a bit of a disability still become a badass, even with needing these adaptations. I like that she has a brain, she's smart, but I don't think she really seems that smart, to be honest. It's a little bit of like telling us like she's smart, she trained for the scribes, but like she never does anything that groundbreakingly smart. But that's fine. I'm not going to be too mad at it. This book is just a bit of a fun, fluffy, kind of Marvel film kind of read. It's not literary, it's not too serious. Like, I'm fine with just reading something that's like a tiny bit trash. So yeah, it's not overly complex. The world is really simple. The kind of 2 countries, 3 kind of, with this border, and it's dragons versus griffins, although we find out a twist later that there's venom and there's this whole hidden plot, which I thought was a nice twist. And it's very accessible. And Rebecca Yarros has said, you know, she wrote it like this. This is intentional. It's made to be accessible for people who don't normally read fantasy. And me going into this book, I hadn't really read any fantasy before, unless you count like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. Fantasy that I read when I was like middle grade age. I haven't really read any fantasy as an adult. So I really appreciated this kind of really soft, accessible fantasy element. I think Rebecca Yarros is an absolute trooper. She she kind of proposed 5 different books to her Red Tower publisher, and they kind of chose this dragon one, and then she went and wrote it. She plotted out all 5 books. She wrote this in like 2 months, and then she wrote a romance book for her other publisher, and then she wrote Iron Flame also in 2 months, which is just crazy. And she was releasing the books and doing book tours, releasing Fourth Wing in May and Iron Flame in November, which is just crazy, especially for someone with Ehlers-Danlos, which she has said in some interviews, like, it was really hard going on her. So she is slowing down. We've got Onyx Storm coming in January 2025. And then I think we can expect a book a year or a book every 18 months. But she's still publishing like contemporary romance with her other publisher in between these books. So she is a machine. These books may not be perfectly written, they may be accessible, but I think we have to respect that she's writing them in 2 months. She's doing a couple of rounds of editing. She's getting books out there. She's making bank. I'm sitting here taking like years to write a first draft of my one book and making absolutely no money. So I have respect for her. I think I need to take a leaf out of her and Sarah J Maas's book and just get on with it. Get these words on the page. Don't care about it being perfect. Get it done, and then we'll make it as perfect as we can in the time that we've got. So yeah, I can definitely appreciate from a business standpoint that these books are killing it. They're doing so well. That being said, there's one huge critique that I have that I would like to be remedied in the next books in the series, and that's just a bit more development for our side characters. I said this in my TikTok review for Fourth Wing, and the same still stands after I've read all of Iron Flames. But Riddick and Rhiannon and Sawyer and even Jacinia, I don't know much about them. I know a lot of readers love them, but I have to ask why. Like, what is it about them that you love, honestly? I find them so beyond basic and just not really that lovable as a result. Like, Jacinia is a scribe and she's deaf. That's all I know about her. Cool that she's deaf because it's good representation, but like, I don't know anything else about her character. She's quite courageous, I guess. Like, she kind of helps Violet, goes out of her way, even though it's dangerous. But other than that, that's all. Rhiannon is nice and bisexual and good at what she does, and she's like the section leader, right? That's all. That's all I can say about Rhiannon. I don't know anything else about her. She's got like a young sibling or cousin or something, so she cares about her family. Great. Doesn't everyone? And then there's Riddick. Is he gay? I don't know. He might be gay, and he is funny and makes like a lot of witty banter, even when it's like not really that suitable. That's all I know about Riddick. And then Sawyer likes Jacinia. repeated first year because he didn't bond the dragon the first time is really good because he's done first year twice, and that's it. That's all I know. And then there was like Liam, he was nice, and he was good and competent, and he was dedicated to Xaden, and that's it. See what I mean? Like, they're just a little bit lacking. If there's more information about these characters that I'm missing, like, let me know in the comments, but I just couldn't tell you too much about them, and I should be able to after 2 massive books, like literally over 1,000 pages worth of being in this world. By contrast, look at Harry Potter, look at Ron and Hermione, arguably like more interesting and like more beloved than Harry himself. We've got Dumbledore, we've got Hagrid, we've got McGonagall, we've got Draco Malfoy. They're all absolutely formidable, they're all very distinct, they're complex characters. Even though it's like a middle grade fiction, they're beloved characters that stand the test of time. Jack Barlow could be a Draco Malfoy, but he's nowhere near the charisma of Draco. He's nowhere near the complexity. Even his name is just Jack. Jack Barlow. It's so boring, and he hates Violet, what, because she's weak and he wants a powerful dragon. His whole motivation is just more power. That's so basic. You have to want... I know there are people that want power for power's sake, but I think it's so much more compelling when they want power for some like deeper reason. And it makes total sense later why, spoiler for Iron Flame, Jack would then end up becoming a Venin, because Venin's whole thing are they just want power for power's sake, basically. They don't currently, at this point in the series, have some sort of deeper mission going on. It all just seems very like basic, wants power. Draco Malfoy and like Voldemort, by comparison, they have deeper things going on. Draco has these deep insecurities, he's got this deep prejudice against like mudbloods, he's resentful of Harry, he's got this thirst to prove himself as the series goes on, and then his arc kind of comes full circle as he ends up stepping away from evil. But someone like Jack, I really can't see where his arc ends besides dying and it being kind of like a yay, thank God kind of moment. And I mean, we already had that from him, so will we get that again? Will it come back? Will he have a redemption like Draco? He may do, but I don't think it will hit me in the heart the way Draco's did in Harry Potter. And finally, to finish this fourth wing portion, we've got the big battle scene at the end. It was really good. It was really thrilling. I thought the action and also the sex scenes were all written very well. This big battle is the best part of the book. And I did cry, I admit, I did cry when Liam died. I thought it was very heart-wrenching the way it happened. Even though I wasn't that attached to Liam and I didn't think he was that defined of a character, because it was so well written in that moment, the action and Violet's reaction, it did still hit in the emotions the way it needed to. And I thought this really raised the stakes. It really made you feel that anyone could die at any moment. And this carried on to Iron Flame. The action was really well written, and because of what had happened to Liam, there was this sense of stakes and danger that books like A Court of Wings and Ruin just didn't have, because I never believed that any of the main characters would actually die, and I was right. With this series, I kind of get the impression that a lot of our characters are going to be dead by the end. I especially think like of our main four of Violet, Sawyer, Riddick and Rhiannon. See, I'm struggling to remember their names. Riddick and Rhiannon. I think at least one of them is definitely going to die. They've made this, as of Iron Flame, they've kind of made this pact that the four of them are going to survive until the end, until graduation. And I just think that's setting up for heartbreak. I think that's not going to be the case. Or maybe it will be the case and then one will die pretty quickly after. And that's sad, but that's good. I love that. I want stakes. I want to be sad. I want to feel emotions when I read a book. And that's why I think this series so far is stronger than the ACOTAR series for me, personally. Moving into Iron Flame, this book is a behemoth. It's in 2 parts. It's kind of got 2 kind of plots going on. We've got the plot in Basgiath. It kind of deals with lies and Violet trying to figure out who she can trust, who she can open up to and tell the truth about Venin. And then in the second half of the book, we leave Basgiath, we go to Arisha. They kind of continue the school there, but they bring in the Griffin Riders, and that's brings in a whole new interesting dynamic. The world really opens up. We open up the magic system and introduce the idea of runes. We get to watch Violet hone her energy lightning powers and see the real perils of burnout and how that can kill our main characters. I think that's really great. I think that also adds a lot of stakes. I think it's important to have limits when you've got a magic system, otherwise your reader is just like, well, why can't you just use your magic? Why can't you just do this? I think this limitation really helps ground the plot in a bit of logic around the magic, which I think is really helpful. We have more thrilling action, we have more character deaths and shocking moments that also impacted me in the feels, I must admit. So much happened that it's hard to remember it all, but I definitely really enjoyed this book. I thought the college portion and that kind of infantry style navigation task was not as interesting as we got in Fourth Wing. There's the element of torture and interrogation, which I think was quite interesting to read, but again maybe not quite as thrilling as the challenges from first year in Fourth Wing. We still get to talk a little bit about the gauntlet and threshing and stuff because we've got first years like Arik and Sloane going through that as well, so we still get to experience a bit of that. Violet's only kind of tangentially involved in that. Violet's main kind of plot arc throughout the whole book is trying to find out how the wards were made, how to create a new ward for Arisha, and then at the end we have this misdirection where she has to choose between one of the wards and which one to reinstate, and she ends up reinstating Basgiath. So I think that means we'll be staying around Basgiath for the third book, which is good, because I did have questions, like when we left halfway through I was like, are we really not going to be at Basgiath anymore for the rest of the 5-book series? But that's good. I think it was good to bring like the readers back to that familiar environment. I think a lot of people will enjoy the War College content, even though it's you know, it's very flawed and it's very corrupt. We all know that it's corrupt, but I think that's what kind of makes it interesting to read about. The dragons again are great in this book. Tairn's kind of the same as always, he's great. We've got Andarna, who does sleep for the first half of the book, which I think makes the book a little bit slower, but it's fine. We've got some mystery about why she's sleeping for so long, and then she wakes up and she's this grumpy teenager and she appears to be black. But as we find out by the end, she's actually kind of a chameleon dragon, which is very interesting. I like that twist. I also like that we have a bit of a twist where she herself has a disability, she has a bit of a problem with her wing, and it's really nice disability representation. Again, I think it makes her a really good bonded dragon for Violet. I think they can understand each other, and she's got this personality where she wants to prove herself and she doesn't want to be held back by her disability either, and she's really bravely working to improve the best she can. So I really liked all of that stuff. We have the romance element with Xaden. I think this element of the book was the weakest. I know that Rebecca is probably just pulling the relationship back because there has to be development throughout the 5 books, but they really are very toxic in this book, and they just have a very repetitive argument about him withholding information from Violet and how she can't trust him because of that, even though I think it makes complete sense for him to withhold all of that information, especially when she can't even control her shields. And then she's kind of hypocritical because then she keeps secrets from other people as well, and she keeps secrets from him. So I think it's kind of a silly argument, and I don't really like this miscommunication kind of trope. We also don't really learn that much more about Xaden, I guess because he's keeping secrets still. But throughout the start of this book, where they're kind of separated because he's a lieutenant and he's working far away, he does write her letters, not about the secrets, but just about his life and his history. We see a couple of excerpts of these in the kind of text at the top of each chapter, but really we only see about 5 or 6 of them at most, I think. I really wish we'd actually got more of these letters as a reader to read for ourselves, because then we might actually know more about Xaden and understand him a bit more. That would have given me a chance to actually fall for Xaden and fancy him and like him. As it stands, it's a little bit telling the reader instead of showing them, because Violet's just like, he's writing me letters, he's opening up about his family here, blah blah blah, but we don't really get to experience that, and so it's a bit meaningless for me as a reader. All we really get about Xaden again is how hot Violet thinks he is, how he's physically perfect for her, how he's just so sexy, and we get the sex scenes with him, and it's all just very physical. It's kind of depending on the reader, falling for a pretty face or a pretty body, maybe in his case, rather than connecting with like who he really is. And that just cheapens it for me. I personally like to kind of fall for the whole picture in a protagonist, in a character. That to me is what good romance really is. It's kind of about the internal of the person as well. So yeah, that is my main critique of this book. I think that's what a lot of people critiqued about this book. I think people that love this book because of the romance probably got a bit tired of this repeated argument, got tired of them being separated for like half of the book, and then when they were together it was a little bit unsatisfying. We did get some good sex scenes, but we also got a lot of arguments, and they were pretty much just having sex or having arguments, which wasn't bonding to me. So that was just a little bit disappointing. And I think that's all from me as far as critiques and review goes. But I do just want to talk a little bit about what the fuck actually happened, and some questions and some theories we have going forwards, because I think the really great thing about this book, and the reason why I enjoyed it so much, is that it did raise a lot of questions, that I could go on TikTok and YouTube afterwards and really dive into the theories and explore them. And I'm really, really compelled to read the next one now. I even went online and pre-ordered Onyx Storm, and you know, while I was a bit grumpy about Iron Flame and a little bit like, oh, I'm not going to pick it up, it took me a year to pick it up, unless there's other books that I'm really excited about at the time, I think I might just straight away jump into Onyx Storm, get right on the bandwagon, and I don't want any spoilers from the internet, so I might just make sure that I read it and get online and then dive into more theories, because I think that's what makes this book really fun, and I just didn't have that with ACOTAR. So for me, now that I've read the second book, this book is superior. So yeah, major spoilers now, major spoilers, but let's talk about like the OMG moments. First, we've got Xaden being an intrinsic. He can read people's intentions. Ooh, whatever the fuck that means. And once you learn this about him, it changes a lot of the dynamic between him and Violet. It changes things for Violet as well. It has her questioning everything all over again. And when you go back in the book, you can see lots of clues where he demonstrates this power even with Violet. There's a lot of times where she thinks something and he responds out loud, and she's like, oh, I didn't think I said that out loud. And I think it's kind of hidden because you know that the two of them have a mental connection already. So I thought that was quite clever, and it did still take me by surprise. We have the very ending with Xaden turning venom. How heart-wrenching. Like, what does that mean for him and Scale now? Scale's kind of gone cold on him. I think they're still bonded, but the relationship has changed and it might become damaged. The bond could still become broken over the course of this next book. We have Jack coming back, which I didn't really like as a plot point, but then it made sense later when he turned out to be Venom. And killing his dragon and not dying as a result, that was an interesting twist. Really heart-wrenching for the dragon, even though we weren't that warm to the dragon in the first place. We've got the consequences of the big battle. Of course, we've lost Violet's mother, General Sorengale, where she sacrificed herself to save her daughter. That was quite valiant in the end. I was really scared that we were going to lose another main character, but in the end, Sawyer lost his foot but didn't lose his life, so that was okay. Still very high stakes, and that should make his character more interesting as we see how he copes with that in the next book, what adaptations he might need to ride his dragon. There's a question for the next book. I hope we find out. We've got all of the lies about the venom suddenly being exposed to everyone in the population. Very interested to see what the fallout of that will be in the next book. We have so many questions and theories going forward. We've opened up this possibility that now lots of people could actually be venom. They could be venom among us. There's theories about Violet's mum maybe being a venom, or maybe being infected by a venom when she was pregnant with Violet, and that's why Violet has silver hair. We have theories about Violet's father and whether he was researching the venom, whether he was researching a cure for being a venom. Will they find a cure for being a venom? Who knows? I hope so, otherwise Xaden's kind of fucked. We have a theory that Tairn's old rider actually became Venom instead of burning out to try and save Brennan. We have all sorts of theories about what Violet's second signet could be, and maybe she even has a third signet or unlimited signets. And Darna is clearly such a special and rare dragon, so we've got all these questions about how she's going to change as she matures into an adult, what her differences are going to mean for the story, what they're going to mean for Violet and her powers. Rebecca Yarros has said that Violet has already used her signet in the second book, but people haven't picked up on it yet. It's possible that she's some kind of intrinsic, or maybe that she's a distance wielder, because that was mentioned a few times. There's also a theory that Xaden might even be a demigod, because we bring up the question of his mother and she's kind of missing, she kind of left. He admitted that in the book. So now there's some theories that his mother is actually some kind of goddess, the goddess of war perhaps. I have so many questions and I'm so excited to dive into the next book and maybe get some answers, probably get some answers, but probably get even more questions raised. Probably going to come out of that one with even more theories, and I'm living for it, I'm excited for it. I think the title Onyx Storm could mean so many things. Xaden's eyes are described as onyx a lot of the time, and now that he's a venom, there will be, you know, red rings in there, so I wonder if the Onyx Storm references his eyes. I thought early on that it could be a reference to like Violet and her dragons, because she had Tairn who's black, and Darna seemed black as well, onyx coloured. And she's a lightning wielder, so that kind of brings the storm. Maybe her second signet could also be storm related, and then she with her dragons could become an Onyx Storm. We also discovered that the wyvern, when they kind of fall down dead at the wards, when you cut them open, they're full of onyx with ruins inside. And wyvern are often referred to as looking like a storm as they approach in battle. So I think Onyx Storm could reference the storm of incoming venom and wyvern as well. Let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'm publishing this in like December, so we should have a good 4-6 weeks before Onyx Storm comes out to kind of nerd out a little bit about this. I am not promising anything, but I think I'll be quite quick to read it when it comes out. It might take me a while because they are big books and I've not got a holiday planned or anything, but I'm keen to be at the forefront this time, getting in there quick with the theories and the questions. So I look forward to getting my hand on the book, and then I'll be back to discuss it with you guys. Subscribe if you don't want to miss it, and I'll see you in my next book review. Bye!